So I'm going to call our city council workshop to order. It is 5:51. Let the record show all council members are present except Council Member Solomon and Mayor Pro Tem Cobb. And Mr. Cagle is here. All right, we will start off with our presentation. Madam Secretary.
PR 24007, receive a presentation regarding the municipal court in-house collections program.
Thank you. Good evening, Judge Krishner.
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members, city manager, city attorney. Thank you for allowing me to give this presentation. Okay, so the municipal court is conducting its own compliance a collections program. It's in-house now. So we start with a three-pronged process. We implemented a compliance division. Also, we're doing test messaging and doing a warrants program. So we'll talk about the compliance division first. So we had a compliance division in the courtroom back prior to 2014, but there were some budget cuts, and I think in 2018 that division was terminated. And but now that we're almost fully staffed, we brought the program back, and it was established back in January 2023. So we actually classify two positions as compliance clerks, and their jobs are to interview defendants who request payment arrangements, set up the payment arrangements, and also verify the contact information and the references, so we'll be able to get those people to make their payments timely. We also decided to lower the monthly payment amounts because in Killeen, a lot of people cannot afford to make high-level payments each month. So we made them able to make the payments by lowering the payments so they can afford to make the payments. And that's been helping. Now also, we implemented a text messaging program to help to be more proactive with the defendants so they can be able to keep track of their court dates and let them know that, look, you need to make your payments, you need to come to court. That way we can reduce the delinquencies with our cases and our defendants. So this was implemented in December 2023. So we send text messages to defendants. We send them the notice of the citations being filed with the court, the reminder of their first appearance date to come to court, to take care and do their, decide whether they want to plead on their cases, either guilty, no contest, or not guilty. If they do decide to plead no contest or guilty and they're convicted, then we set up they usually get a payment plan if they can't afford to pay immediately or within 30 days. If they're on a payment plan, we set them payment plan reminders so we can keep track of them so they can know to make their payments. So we send them 3 text messages for that. We send one 5 days prior to the due date. The other one's on the due date, and the next one is if they're late, we send them a reminder to let them know that they were late, and if they were late, that they could be a warrant issued for their arrest because they were late. Now also, if they want to pay within 30 days, which they have the right to do as well, we send them a reminder about that for the 30 days to pay in full. We send it 5 days prior to the due date, on the day of, and if they're late, the same thing with the CAPERS profile and warrant reminders because they were late. Now also, we also send notice to defendants if they did not comply with the deferrals. That was to have their cases dismissed. They have to follow conditions to have the cases dismissed. That's a deferral. And if they didn't satisfy the conditions, we put them on a docket. It's called the show cause docket. And we can consider it a delinquent docket. But on that show cause docket, we want people to come so we can able to take care of their cases, get into compliance. So we send them a notice they have to show up. And since we've been sending out these text messages, we have a lot more people showing up to court now because now people check their text messages, they know to come. It's more effective than sending letters or sending phone calls because nowadays people check their text messages, so people have been coming in to take care of their cases. Now also, if they don't show up, we also send them a notice that a warrant's been issued. We send them the warrants that let them know that the warrants are issued, so come take care of your cases before you get arrested. Now, also, if they don't show up and they have what's called a failure to appear, because if they don't show up to court, there's a failure to appear gets charged against them, and we let them know that if they don't show up, there's a notice that they'll get a failure to appear or a violated promise to appear, which is basically the same thing, if they don't show up for the initial appearance. Now, also, besides the text messages, we also send email or mail reminders if there's no cell phone number in the file. So we can still reach them. If we can't text them, we still try to reach out to everyone. And finally, we re-implemented the warrant program, which is something that was really delinquent for years through the court system for some reason. Now, we started by publishing the active warrant list weekly. So every week on the website, we update the active warrants. This is done every week. We also send these warrants out to KPD and to the military so they can, enforce the warrants and let the members of the military know that you have to come to court to clear your cases because these cases, they need to be cleared. So we have been working in conjunction with PD and with the military to help us with this. Now, also, prior to my arrival as judge in the court, we were not issuing warrants for every case for some reason. Now we are. So we're issuing warrants for every eligible case now. And now that we have the city marshal staff fully staffed, the city marshals, once they're up to speed and trained, they'll issue warrants weekly. So all the new cases, as soon as they're in warrant status, we can go out and serve these warrants immediately so they're not delinquent for years and years like before. Also, we've implemented the Warrant Forgiveness Month. Now, that started a couple years ago, back in 2022. We were able to clear 109 warrants that year for the first time. And then the following year, we did it again in December, we were able to clear 146 warrants. Let's see here. Also, we did the warrant roundup. And that was last year, between February and March 2023. We cleared 130 warrants with the warrant roundup. That was our first warrant roundup in years. And the first time in doing it, we had some issues, but we were able to clean up 130 warrants. And now that we have the marshals, fully staffed marshals, we're going to start doing that again. I don't know if we're going to do it this year yet, but we may, but I haven't decided yet. It all depends. Now, finally, for the warrants, the total warrants that were issued, back in fiscal year 21-22, there were only 268 arrest warrants issued and only 144 capias pro fine warrants. Those are the warrants that were after people are convicted. Those are capias pro fine warrants. And fiscal year 2022-2023, we've increased significantly. There are 2,208 arrest warrants issued and 395 capias pro fine warrants issued. And so we're making a lot of progress. Now, also with the warrants, because we have our marshals now, we've been working with previously KPD has been loading the warrants into a system. It's called an RMS system. This is the system to load the warrants so they're activated. But KPD has asked us as the court to load those warrants ourselves. So now we're training our staff to do that ourselves. We're hoping to have another position created for this person to do this full-time, to load warrants in the system full-time, so we can be more proactive, do this more quickly, more efficiently, and that'll help out PD as well. And so that's what we're doing now. It's been effective so far, but obviously we have a ways to go because we were behind in so many cases for so long. So in summary, for our in-house collections program, we have the three-pronged program, like I said, the compliance division, which is the main focus for being proactive to help people so they know what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it. We also have the test messaging because that's a more effective way to communicate with people nowadays. And we have the warrants for the people who just can't do what they're supposed to do in time. It's the last resort, but it is a tool for the court to use to bring people in compliance. Are there any questions?
Counsel, do you have any questions? Okay, I'm just waiting to see if someone's going to click. I have two questions. What made you decide the courts to do in-house And when you do your warrant roundup, first of all, what made you decide and how cost effective it has been for the courts? And how do you measure if it works or not? Those are my three questions.
Well, the reason we did the in-house collection system is because we're able to get these text message program in a bundle package through our provider who does the court a software program. So it's not going to cost us anything to do these text messages. So that's why we decided to do that, because we decided text messaging is very effective because the phone calls and emails were not nearly as effective. People change their emails. For some reason, they don't answer the phone, but the text messages are very effective. So the whole purpose is to get the compliance. It was an easier way to get the compliance doing it in-house. And it's cheaper for defendants as well because there's no added fee to it. Also, I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
The first question was, what made you decide to do in-house? The second question was, is it cost effective? And that was one of the things I was going to ask you is, how did it lower the payments? And I'm assuming because you went to text message, there was a fee involved somewhere?
Yes, there was a fee that was involved just through the third-party system. A collection third-party system is a 30% fee that gets added to that. And obviously that gets passed on to defendants, when they take care of their case. The problem is we're having issues with that system. That's why we decided to go in-house. But also it saves defendants money because they don't have to pay the 30%, which some fines can go as high as $2,000. And 30% of that is obviously very expensive. That's $600, just a collection fee.
Okay, and my last question to you, now that you have this system in place in the courts and you no longer use a third party, how do you know it's effective, it's cost effective? How do you know it works? Because you went from your warrants from 2022 to 2023 by 2,000.
Yes. Well, I don't want to talk about money, but, I'm going to say that we know it's effective because we're closing cases. That's how I know it's effective. Now, the thing is, some people close their cases through jail credit, through community service, and through paying. So there's different ways that people take care of their cases, but the goal of the court is to dispose of cases. And because we're able to contact these defendants, we know that it's effective because they're coming in to take care of their cases. And we're closing these cases. That's how we know we're being effective.
So it's more so you think it's because of your text bundle package that you sending out texts constantly to remind them and
Well,
then follow up with emails if you don't get a reply.
Well, we do the emails because we don't have the numbers for the texting.
Okay.
That's the reason we do the emails. We don't want to do emails because it's not as effective. But if we don't have a number for texting, we do emails. But it's not a one-prong approach. It's a three-prong approach because that's what we're being proactive now. Because if you have to count on the defendants to be proactive, sometimes that's not very effective because people forget, people just don't care. So now we're on top of them to let them know, look, you have to take care of this. If not, this is the consequence. If they don't take care of things, warrants might be issued. If warrants are issued, then they might have to go to jail. And we don't want that. We want them to be in compliance. But if we stay on top of it and we're proactive about it, we get the compliance most of the time.
Thank you, Judge. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You asked something that triggered. In your warrants issued, the arrest warrants and the copious profiles warrants, is what percentage that? Because I see that they increased, but you had, I guess, this fixed how you issue warrant. What was the gap?
Well, they weren't being issued. The biggest gap is the warrants were not being issued.
I mean, of the cases that you had, what was the percentage of, like, in 268 out of the cases that you have as opposed to 2,200? You understand the question?
No, I understand what you're saying. Well, the way warrants are issued, the case have to be eligible to be in warrant status. Okay. So those 268, not all the cases that were that were eligible to be issued warrants were issued. So they weren't being issued for every case that was eligible. Say a person had 10 cases. Maybe one case they got a warrant on. So, so you do that by like 10 people, that's 100 cases, 10 warrants. So there's very few warrants for a lot of eligible cases. So, but now we're doing since I started, at least in 2022, 2023, we issued them for every case that was eligible. So that's why the numbers went up substantially.
Yeah, I was just thinking that to show the eligible cases that didn't get issued, it may show a better,
Well, I believe
don't
me,
have that?
I couldn't do that because believe me, there's a whole lot more that should be in warrant status, but there's a lot of
Got
reasons
it.
why they're not yet. The whole thing about loading warrants in the system, there's a whole thing, a lot of things that have to happen before warrants can be issued.
okay,
And like I said, I talked about, KPD was issuing the warrants, but realize that we're Class C warrants. They have to issue Class C warrants, Class B warrants, Class A warrants, state jail felonies.
Right.
We're on the bottom. So our priority is very low. But when we do issue the warrants ourselves, we're our only a priority, so we can issue them right away.
okay.
So I'm
Thank you.
saying there's a lot of eligible cases, but, the reason why they're not there is there's a multitude of reasons why they're not there yet.
Okay.
We're working on that, though.
I got it. Thanks.
All right, Judge Krishna, there are no more questions with you. Thank you
Great.
and the courts and your staff for all you do for our city.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate it, Madam Mayor. You all have a good evening.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
We will now go into citizen comments. For the citizen comments, for anyone that's new, you have 4 minutes to speak. Council, you have 1 minute allotted if you would like to ask questions or follow-up. With that being said, Melissa Brown. Good evening, you have 4 minutes.
You would think on a night where finances are such a big deal on your agenda, you would have made a smarter decision a few minutes ago. You're asking us to follow rules, and then you don't follow your own that you put in writing, that you've signed to, that are subscribed with the state. So I would ask for a little bit of leniency for every citizen that comes up here tonight, because you've already broken your own rules, and you went off agenda
Melissa
plenty.
Brown, please,
You
would you please
personally
get on-
went off agenda plenty during the last
Melissa Brown,
meeting.
would you please get on the agenda because you disturbed
I am
and
on
interrupting
the agenda.
meeting.
Ma'am, I'm on the agenda because finances are on the agenda tonight, and when we give
We're
up
not
15...
talking about the
When we
PFC.
give up 15 years of taxes, that is a finance issue. When I look over the financial report, I see that our sales tax revenue year over year is leveling out. That doesn't seem to be a concern to you. You told the media that, but it should be a concern to every single person on this council.
Melissa
Beca-
Brown, please stay on the agenda.
If you could pause my time while the mayor looks at the agenda.
We're not pausing
At items
time.
number 3
Let's
and
go.
15, then stop cutting me off and eating my time. Be respectful. It's on the agenda to talk about finances, and if you can't deal with the fact that taxes have almost everything to do with finances in this city, then you shouldn't be on the dais. So if you would like to not interrupt me, I will be
There
able
would
to
be no
continue.
more personal
And
attacks.
it's
Stay
not a
on the
personal
agenda.
attack, it is a point that is factual. Facts are not personal attacks. So, going back to this, it should be a concern to everyone on the council that we have a flattening sales tax rate. It is not increasing at the same rate that it has been for years. It is coming closer and closer to flatlining. What are we doing about it? Giving up property tax is not going to help us. I've heard time and time again from council members, the problem we have with our budget, our finances and our money, is because we are allowing because of the veterans exemption, because veterans are 100% exempt, but we're going to give up the millions of dollars that would come from a property tax. When we look at the finances, that should be something that should be taken into consideration. I'd also like to ask about some of the ARPA stuff that's going on. So we only have $210,000 that was allocated but has not been spent on speed mitigation across the city so far. There was also $250,000 allocated to police range and training upgrades. Ms. Gonzalez introduced ARPA for Hill Country Action in order to help Meals on Wheels. I don't see that on this list anymore. There was also money reallocated from federal grants that were put towards Hill Country Action Committee for Meals on Wheels. They were supposed to be getting the money so they can do upgrades over at the Arts and Activity Center in order to have a centralized location to do Meals on Wheels from. And that money is now not even listed under your ARPA. And just, if anybody wants to look, that is item number 15. And it starts at page number 28 and goes through page number 31. I'd also like to say that I am very confident the council is going to accept these 15 parcels of land for 63.5 acres for future park development. Through prior land dedication, even though we don't know what those projects will be, I should hope that this proves that if given the opportunity, parkland dedication can and does work.
Thank you. Your time is up.
And then we should not talk about it ever again.
Mr. Sean-
Coming
ma'am,
up
your
on
time
debt
is up.
issue for the bonds.
Mr. Sean Price,
No one can
good
hear you
evening,
when you're
sir.
banging
You
the
have
gavel.
4 minutes. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Price, it's always good to see you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to lose my stuff here. I apologize.
You got a lot of things.
I'm a
you
little
wanna talk about.
dysfunctional today.
Yes, sir.
My medication is working a little differently since a few threats have happened here. So items 4 and 5, 24-43 and 44, I would say pick anybody else to mitigate these items other than the city manager. For all intents and purposes, maybe the accounting offices mitigate these contracts. RS 24-45, what will our cost be in this endeavor? Right? And what are the, can anybody identify the program's responsibilities that will be acquired by the city of Killeen in this project here? Because I don't understand why Fort Cavazos would need the city of Killeen in any of these in this event in any way, shape, or form. 2446, $2.2 million for a pump station. Seems at its described size and capacity, and the actual design seems to be about $1 million overpriced. So, according to all research under, my knowledge of tank farm and pipeline systems and pumping stations and so forth at this capacity, I'm at a loss because not even several other cities near us paid anywhere close to over $1.2 million for their pump stations at this same capacity. So I'm wondering where the extra $1.2 million on top of it, where that's going to or where it's coming from, what it's into the price. So 24047, $52,000 for a software program. I'm sorry, I don't see why we're spending that money for a software program. Just don't know, not specifically for a maintenance of a currently operating system. That's excessive to me, so I'm like, justify the cost. And I don't see any justification in its agenda package. Same thing with 24048. That's a lot of money for software. I just don't understand why we're spending this much for software. On 24049, on the general election for for May, are these judges going to be ours, municipal judges, or are they going to be judges outside of Bell County that are going to do this evaluation? On 24050, what are our requirements for utilizing this property if we should purchase it? Under 24-051, I say don't spend any money on changing the name from anything from Fort Hood at all. Just leave it alone. Leave it there. Leave the history alone. Stop erasing it. It is what it is. History is history. Leave it alone. There's no reason to waste money. 24052. I don't support the bond. So,
Mr. Price, thank you so much. Your time is up.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Like I said, I'm a little
Yes, sir. Thank you.
discombobulated tonight.
Thank you so much.
No answers.
Thank you, Mr. Price. We now have Cameron Cochran, so you have 4 minutes.
I also want to talk about the quarterly financial report. It's DS 24019, page 29. Let's look at American Rescue Funding, the ACT funding. It's supposed to be used for relief of COVID-19 pandemic public health concerns, and yet downtown events received $422,000. So COVID pandemic means separate, get some distance between people, but let's use the money to put people together in a downtown event. 1.7 million was used by business assistants. I looked in that report, I could not find the names of those people who participated as business assistants, nor could I find 150,000 that was given to the nonprofit organizations. Can, when the person speaks, tell me an outline who those people or companies or organizations are? Let's move on. I will not be here next week. It's called spring break, and so I want to ask my questions about PH 24007. That's the one that deals with my favorite subject, water. Water. Thank you for the City Council for implementing the Cochrane Water Conservation Act of 2023. I call it the Cochrane Water Conservation Act because I initially brought up the concern of car wash stations in June 23. For now, those who are counting, we have 45 car wash facilities in a 7-mile radius. That moved up from June of last year from 35. Now we have 45. We have 4 under construction that will be built soon in the southern part of Killeen. Several more signs are out there. The signs are dedicated, and the signs that are out there are talking about the car washes. Now let's move on. In September, the city attorney recommended adoption of at least 2 or 3 water conservation initiatives. None of these initiatives were adopted by the city council. Guess they can't make any decisions in time. 8 months later, at the time, we now having a dirty water bubble float up to the surface once again. It seems that in February 2024, there was a meeting of someone called the Construction Board of Appeals. If you look at the presentation, it's interesting that the Construction Board of Appeals, they said, quote, they voted unanimously to recommend disapproval of this amendment, disapproval in February 2024. But in the same package, it says staff recommends council approve. Can you tell me who these staff members are? These staff members who are going against the city's own Board of Appeals that reviewed it, the construction needs. Also in that package, I noticed you did not put the water level, since we are in the Phase 2 water conservation. When you have the presentation next week, can you include that information? I would be curious what the water levels are doing, because I think they keep going up and up and up. Let's see what else we have here. Let's talk more about water. On the average, a car wash station washes 300 cars or vehicles a day. 35 to 75 gallons of water are used per car wash, depending on the type of wash, either a hand wash in a bay or automatic. Under this agenda item that they're trying to push on people, it should be note that none of the car wash stations currently in effect, yes, 47 of them, will not follow under this, nor the 3 that are coming online within the next 2 months, nor the future ones, because this will not apply to them. Even though we currently have car wash stations that can employ recycle water conservation techniques, no one cares because no one inspects those. In the plan, it says that the city's going to mandate car wash owners hire a licensed plumber to inspect itself. I'd like to remind folks that the city failed to manage its property manager fees back in 2023. Now they're again going to rely on things that may bubble up out of the dark and have car wash stations inspect themselves. Again, by the summer of this year, we're going to have 50 car wash facilities up and running. This measure may not apply to any of those 50.
Mr. Wade
I think
Gent,
we've already reached the max limit of 50 for our
Mr.
city. You tell me.
sir, your time is up.
Thank you very much. Have a
Mr.
great
Gent, I apologize for that delay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Wade Gent. I'm a partner with the Linebarger Law Firm. We currently, for the last 10 years or so, have represented the city of Killeen for the collection of delinquent court cases. So I'm here to speak on item PR 24007. First, I was a municipal judge for 12 years, and so I know how a court operates, and I appreciate Judge Krishna's program and proposal to streamline the docket process and streamline the collections of the court. I think that's going to go a long way toward improving the efficiency and helping the city move those cases off of the docket and help the citizens as well as the city budget. Members of the council, I want to point out that we have been honored to represent the city in this capacity since 2014. Since that time, we've been able to collect, what we're addressing is the delinquent court accounts for fines and fees and any other costs that are assessed against the defendant in the Class C misdemeanor cases that are adjudicated by the municipal court. In the 10 years that we've had this contract and been able to help the city in that capacity, we've been able to collect over $8 million in delinquent court fines, fees, and penalties. That basically translates into an annual added revenue of around $880,000. And we're proud of the work that we've done. I think that we stand by results that I feel are remarkable and have been beneficial to the city over the last decade. There's a couple of things I want to point out from the outset. First of all, the service we provide is cost-free to the city of Killeen. The Texas legislature has authorized an additional fee to be assessed on top of the delinquent amounts that are due, and that is paid, as the judge pointed out, that is paid by the delinquent defendant who has failed to pay their fines or fees up until that point. We only receive the cases after they have been adjudicated and delinquent for at least 60 days. The placement of these cases is up to the discretion of the court, the judge and the staff of the court. Something else that I feel is very important to point out from the outset is that all of the services we provide do not take away any authority from the court. They do not substitute for the authority or the responsibility of the court and the judge. Everything we do is created as a supplement to what the court is already doing. So there was some reference earlier by the judge about all of the measures that have been taken to streamline the current collections, all the text messaging and so forth. It's important to note that those measures, that's a service that's provided by the software company. It's called Tyler Connect, and it's an option that they provide for the courts to be able to make more efficient the collections process of the current collections. What we do is entirely for the delinquency. It does not interfere with the court's ability to issue warrants, with the court's ability to adjudicate cases based on financial need or indigency, to adjudicate cases on jail time served, or to adjudicate cases based on deferred disposition or community service. Finally, the council has been provided a packet that basically describes the collections results that we've been able to put up for the last 10 years. There's one item in particular that I want to point the council out to because I have limited time. It's the chart that's not very fancy looking, but it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. There is significant information on this spreadsheet that I think is critical to the council's decision on what to do. One of the things that I want to point out is the cost of postage alone on the delinquent accounts that we are able to collect. We've sent out
We
over
appreciate
the.
you, sir. Your time is up.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. You have 4 minutes. Did you call? Oh, Mr. Lewis. Good evening, sir, and welcome back. It's been a while since we have seen you.
It's been a few minutes, Your Honor, and I'm pleased to be back here.
Yes, sir.
I was here initially when we proposed our contractual relationship with the city of Killeen in 2014. Oh, and by the way, I'm a partner in the Linebarger Law Firm as well. I came back again when we were awarded a renewal of our contract based on our collection dollars. And that's because we have done every single thing we told this council we would do when we came and we asked for that contract and got our separate renewal. I understand in-house collections, and by the way, I didn't know Judge Krishna. I've known him since he was in law school. I hadn't seen him in such a long time, but I've known him since those days. I wasn't in law school then. I'm a little older than him. But we represent thousands of clients across this country, from cities as large as New York City and Chicago to small cities, small as Killeen, small as Marlin, Texas. Almost all of them have an in-house collection effort. We normally work in conjunction with the in-house collection effort. In fact, our contract states that they're not even turned over to us until their in-house collection effort has declared them delinquent for at least 60 days. And anybody who is in the collection business knows that the newer delinquents are the easiest to collect. Those are the low-hanging fruit. We give those we don't give them, but we allow the in-house collection effort to work with those before they're even turned over to us. We work in conjunction. We don't refuse to give back cases. If if somebody comes into the court and says, you know, I'm indigent and I can't pay these, and the court says to us, Linebarger, give me that case back. I want to try to work with this person and utilize some of the tools that the legislature has given. And I know that because I'm a municipal judge myself. I serve part-time, and I've been doing it since 2008. And that's what we do. We were surprised to find that the court decided that in order to institute their in-house collection effort, they had to send us a termination notice. We don't really understand because we've not been communicated with. Again, out of all the thousands of clients that we work with, they all have in-house collection efforts. These are not unique things that you're hearing about. These are things that happen in courts all over this country. But all of them who are our clients have found a way to work with us. And what we do is supplement their efforts and help them. And it's something that has worked, and our efforts have resulted in over $8 million to the city of Killeen, its own. And we think we can continue to work, and if the courts will just communicate with us and sit down and talk to us, then we can find out how we can work with one another. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? All right, council, I just wanted to address one thing. We was in the PFC, Madam President, and I had made the statement because there's nothing in the PFC that I had done. And I'm talking about item RS-24046, and that is the, and please do not yell again because you were not recognized. On the RS-24-045, the memorandum of agreement with the United States Army Garrison Fort Cavazos, Central Texas Sustainability Community. I just wanted to clarify, I did not sign a proclamation with anything with what I just said earlier, but on this one right here, the item, because I can to talk about it more openly, because this is an agenda item. The proclamation was signed, all the mayors signed, but the memorandum of agreement must come to the council to vote on. So that last meeting, I'm not saying the name, that was even not the discussion, so I had to make clear for that particular meeting, I didn't do anything for that meeting. But on this one right here, there was proclamation that all mayors signed, but it's not coming to agreement until this council vote on the memorandum of agreement, and I can talk freely now. So I wanted to make sure that's clarified in my comments. Any more comments? All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking our, this work now? Councilmember Segarra, I didn't see you.
I just want to get a better understanding of the last speakers, the last speakers that spoke about what was going on there.
All right, Judge Krishna, could you please come and answer those questions?
I think I got a little bit more clarification. I heard the judge, when he spoke, gave a good presentation, and then as these other speakers, I think, when he said we terminated a contract and everything, I just want to get some clarification on that, if I can, a little bit more from the judge on what's going on
Judge
there.
Krishna, Judge Krishna, would you please come and answer the question of termination? And City Attorney, you can also discuss about the contract. Yes, sir.
Okay, my apologies. What was the question?
The question, what Councilmember Segarra, please propose your
Yeah,
question.
I got a little bit more clarification on hearing these speakers. I heard what you did, your presentation is good. But now that they spoke and they mentioned about the termination of the contract, I think I understood why they're here now.
Yes.
And I want to see if what they heard, what they said, falls in line. Are we looking to terminate their contract completely? Because, from their perspective, what I heard is we don't necessarily have to do that. It's a combined effort. Is it true what they're saying? Are we trying to do it on our own and just get them out of the picture? So if you can bring
Thank you, Councilmember Segarra.
Well, yes, the contract was terminated because we had some issues through the last year. And there've been no phone calls or email or letters sent out to defendants in the whole year of 2023. All the efforts, all the money brought in was through our efforts. There might have been some residual efforts and cases that they had that money was brought in. But no matter what the efforts that they did, all the efforts we do, if the cases are set for collections, the defendants still have to pay them, no matter what efforts are made. And so the whole last year, there were some issues with cases, and so no letters, no phone calls were made all last year. So all the money that was brought in from last year, for the most part, it was all from the efforts of the court staff.
Could we address that?
No, sir, Mr. Corbin, he has the floor, but you can, yes, you didn't fill out a sheet. They can address it, one of them, but you cannot.
Yeah, and I don't want to go back and forth, we'll be here all night, but I just wanted to try to get a little bit of clarification, I don't want to get into he said, she said, because as council members, we're getting the reports, and they're providing a report of what they did, but what I'm hearing is, from your perspective, that's not necessarily so. The report that they're providing that they've collected so much is what if I'm understanding is, it's more based on what you did as a court, not necessarily their efforts.
Well, it was a combination for the 10 years. It was a combination, but for the last years, like I'm saying, is there were no, as far as we know, there were no letters and no phone calls made last year because of the issues that were in place. So from last year, it was all for the most part, was the court's efforts that brought in the money for those cases that were disposed of last year.
Got it, got it. And that
And-
contract was, it expired or we terminated, you said back in January, is that what it was?
Yes, it's already been, well, it's already been terminated, but by terms of the contract, we still have to do the case until, I believe, July, at least send them a case until July.
Okay.
I believe that's the case.
Yes, Madam Attorney, is it terminated or not renewed? That's what I'm,
It was not renewed. And so
My
it
apologies.
was- It was not renewed. We gave at least 60 days notice prior to the automatic renewal date that we didn't want to renew, and so the contract is terminated as of, prior to the renewal date.
so you sent out a 60-day notice letting them know it wouldn't be renewed.
It was more than 60 days, but per the contract, you have to give notice at least 60 days of non-renewal.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
Yes, ma'am. Oh, the floor is yours. I'm sorry.
and then to address your July, that's the 90 days they can still collect on
Yes.
cases they're working for 90 days after the termination date.
You know, I was hoping not to go into specific issues that we were having, but if you need to know, I mean, I can either
I
send
know-
that information to
Well,
you.
no,
I
no,
don't
like I
know.
said, I don't want to get into it now because we got other things to do, but I just wanted to try to get a better, clear understanding because after they spoke, you know, I heard your presentation and all that, but it didn't really click until I heard them speak on what the issue is. And so this is something that we might have to bring back on a later time and have a further discussion. I don't think now is the appropriate, but I just wanted to get a better understanding. And with that, Mayor, I'm through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Segar. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilman Cigar stated it, just about everything I was thinking on my mind. I do think we need to have a further discussion another time about this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Thank you, and I also share that sentiment with some specific questions regarding the actual cost savings. So I do have a lot of questions that I'll make sure I forward on to you. Thank you.
Okay.
you.
So, Judge Krishner, sir, this is not really the time or place because I don't want anything said. He can come up and speak, and after that, we're through, Mr. Corbin. No, not you, sir, because you didn't sign up. Because I don't want to bring any discredit on the business, and I sure don't want to bring a discredit on the city courts.
Of course.
Because what she stated, the city attorney, that you gave them the notice in advance, you didn't want to renew the contract. This is what I'm saying. That's what I'm understanding you to say. So, and the company wants to continue to work with you, but you don't want to work with them. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all right, I just want to hear he wanted to make a comment, and that's only fair because you came back, and then we're moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real briefly, I will clearly state that what we're asking is, we don't dispute that the proper notice was given and everything is in line. That's not an issue. It's not an issue that the court has been effective at creating a new program that I think is going to help with the administration of the court. I do want to point out that over the last 2 years, the spreadsheet that we submitted, you can see that the number of cases that we were assigned ranged from 3,600 per year on a low year up to 14,000 or more on a high year as far as placed cases. Now, it's important to keep in mind that the court has the authority. It's a matter of checking the boxes of whether you want this case to go to collections firm or you want to handle it in-house. They can select individual cases. They can select bulk cases. The court maintains all discretion on which cases are going to be sent out to the third-party collections. We only get paid on the ones that we're sent to collect. You can see in the very first column of that spreadsheet, the placements dropped, starting out with 14,866 placements in 2014, and we maintained a good pace. It dropped a little bit during the COVID years, but then subsequently came back up in 21. But then in 2022, it dropped by almost 2/3. And in 2023, we were only provided 99 cases to try to collect. So of course, naturally, the revenue and the success is going to decrease because we went from getting several thousand cases a year to getting 99 cases in 2023. But you can still see that work was being done even in spite of the low turnover number. Just the calls alone, they did drop significantly, but the last column on the right is an itemization of the inbound calls that we received from the defendants and outbound calls that we placed to the defendants. The main addition that the city gets from having the third-party collections firm is that we are able to find defendants that the city resources don't allow them to find. We call that skip tracing. That's where we are able to identify where people are that we didn't otherwise know. And we do that. We've done that over 2 million times in the last 10 years for the city. That's about 250,000 skip traces per year on all of the delinquent accounts that we've been provided. And another added value that you get from having the third-party collections firm is that we pay all the postage, we do all the printing for the letters, we buy all the envelopes. None of that cost is passed on to the city. And you can see just the number of mail pieces alone have been almost 240,000 over the last 10 years. So there's an added benefit to have, and it's just another tool that the court has in its toolbox to be able to collect, and it does nothing to supplant whatever authority or measures the court itself wants to take to collect. So we really appreciate the opportunity to come. Again, what we're asking is that the council consider adding this to a future agenda so that we can come and make a full presentation and provide a list of everything and a description of everything that we do to help the city and to supplement the efforts of the court and the marshals.
Thank you, sir. All right. No one else would like to speak? Okay, we will move on to the next item. Madam Secretary.
Minutes. Illman 24006. Consider minutes of regular city council meeting of February 13th, 2024. Resolution,
Thank you, Madam Secretary. You can continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolutions. RS 24042. Consider a memorandum resolution approving the investment report for the quarter ended December 31st, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mrs. Tangleland.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, council members. In accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act and our financial governance policy, we are required to present quarterly investment reports. Meter is our current investment advisors, and Mr. Grover here is to present the quarter for fiscal year 24, the first quarter.
Thank you. It's good to see you again, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, council members. Hard to believe we're already into March. So yes, we're talking about the last quarter of the calendar year last year, but wanted to try to provide some forward-looking guidance as well. So the biggest topic point right now is the direction of interest rates. The markets, and we would agree that it feels like we're at the top at this point. The Fed has embarked on a very rapid interest rate hiking cycle to try to slow down in the pace of inflation. It seems like they are achieving that goal. They're not quite there yet. But coming out of the October Federal Reserve meeting last year, there was some indications that the Fed was showing their hand a little bit, that they're done hiking rates and would soon be looking to cut interest rates this year in 2024. So the biggest thing you see here is the shift of the yield curve. So the blue line being October of last year, which at this point was the peak all the way across the curve. And then you can see the two lines below that were actually the start of last year and the end of last year. So we had a lot of activity going on between those 2 points, but ironically, we basically closed last year where we started. And a lot of that was due to the markets repricing those future price cuts from the Fed this year. And the bottom line there is actually 2 years ago. So you can see just how far we've come and where we are today relative to that. So the questions at this point are, when does the Fed start cutting interest rates? Coming into this year, there was a high probability we could see the Fed cut as early as March. That's no longer on the table, primarily because inflation is still sticking around at a much higher level than they'd like to see. When you look at this chart, which is kind of hard to see, But on the far right-hand column, the two numbers that are high or elevated still is going to be housing and services. Those are the two sectors that they're very focused on, and they want to see those continuing to trend lower before they feel confident to start cutting interest rates. The biggest reasons behind that, is if the Fed starts to cut interest rates too soon, they may not actually get inflation down where they want to be. If they cut too late, the economy might be slowing down at a much faster pace than what they'd like it to be, and then they got to start cutting rates faster. So they're in a very challenging environment. The Fed historically has not been able to achieve a soft landing, and they've had to cut rates very quickly on the way down. The goal right now is that that doesn't happen. We would like to see the Fed do a nice gradual easing of policy, and you can see here, this is their outlook. This is their projections for the year, is to gradually start cutting interest rates this year and next year and start easing policy in a very gradual manner. So for those reasons, we continued to talk about this last year, but we're still favoring longer-term investments, even with rates dropping at the last quarter of the year. We've been able to capture a lot of high interest rates prior to that drop, but we still are favoring longer-term rates because as we get closer to that time for price cuts, you'll see rates continue to fall lower. And so we want to make sure we're holding on to those interest rates for the city as long as possible without overextending cash flow needs. Biggest takeaways that I would point, there's a lot going on here on this chart. You see higher book values quarter over quarter, generally just from seasonality of revenue coming in for the city, but weighted average yield continues to climb as well. So on all funds, the city is earning about 4.3% on the total funds of the portfolio. And then I'll close here with the last slide. So you can see just the positioning. We are very properly dispersed across that 0 to 5 year area. We are still favoring, above 10 to 20% above that 3-year area, but we have to make sure we're keeping plenty in the overnight portion as well for day-to-day expenses and debt service payments, et cetera. But on an annualized run rate, the city's looking at well over $10 million in annual interest income. And so, like I said, the goal right now is to keep that there for as long as possible.
Thank you, sir. And I know we met earlier, the investment committee, we met earlier. And one of the things I would like for you to share with them, what is going on in the everyday world, and that's why it's having an effect, like World Affair events. Could you go over some of that has contributed to that?
Absolutely. So some of the hot topics that we were talking about with the committee, just looking into this year and how it could really shape the markets and impact the economy. AI is the top topic of everything right now. Everybody is starting to see that in their daily lives. Banks are using it. Large companies are starting to leverage it. But the one thing that we're watching and really hearing a lot about is productivity. And so as AI starts to grow, the question is, does that start to become elimination of jobs? And everyone's talking about it and is concerned about it, quite frankly. But through innovation that historically in our world, in our environment, is a byproduct of innovation. And we think AI could certainly be one of those tools as people learn to better leverage it. Does it start to scale and take over productivity with companies? And so you're seeing a lot of investment in that right now, and it's a very early on technology. I don't pretend to understand it all, but we all certainly can see it on a day-to-day basis and how quickly it's evolving. So we certainly think that's something that could have a big role as the economy starts to develop and evolve here. And then obviously the conflicts around the world. There's a lot of concerns with those as well. The U.S. being tied to almost everything globally, and how does that cause a shift in the marketplace as well. And certainly not last, but the election. I'm sure that'll be a quiet one this year too, but the election is certainly one to play a big role in everything. So just some big topics there.
And as we discussed the productivity, we know that the labor force will go down as the artificial intelligence takes over, because a lot of companies may be moving that. They are now, but more will follow, and that will cause a big spike in unemployment.
Sure.
And Councilmember Gonzalez.
I just want to say thank you for posing that question, and thank you for your clarity in answering that. It's extremely important that we are paying attention, even though we're city council of City of Killeen, when we look at things on the grand scheme of things, right? We're looking at the national, and then the federal and then international, as you mentioned before. All of those things trickle down and directly impact what we're doing. So when citizens ask about our sales tax, for example, or things like how we're doing business here, we have to change and we have to ebb and flow with these new technologies and these new trends that we are ultimately watching to make sure that we keep our city afloat and can keep up with those trends. So thank you again for making it plain and clear. I appreciate you.
Thank you. That's a valid point. We have to look at it from us, because if people are not working, they're not spending money. If they're not spending money, our interest rate goes down. So that can lead to something much worse, like a recession. So it's important for us as a council to keep our eye, and we thank you for what you are doing. And Ms. Tingerland, Councilmember Sagara.
Thank you. And, there's two sides to it, and I think the other side, and you kind of mentioned it, when we're generating about, what, $10 million? That's pretty good. I mean, I think that's probably one of the highest I've ever seen since I've been on council, and that's the other side of it. The consumer end, we don't like interest rate, but from the city perspective, when you're investing and putting CDs and generating, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I was looking, and I apologize, but I was looking at the chart, and you said it was 10 million. How does that compare to the previous years?
Yeah, it's definitely higher. I'd say we talked about this last year, but it was around this time last year we were actually talking about expanding the investment policy of the city. I think one key thing here is that prior to those changes last year, the city had to be much shorter. And so we weren't actually able to go as long as we are now, 3 to 5 years. So now we've actually allowed ourselves, or the city has allowed themselves, to actually retain those interest rates for an even longer period of time if we do see rates collapse again. So the goal is rates don't go down to zero again, right? That is everyone's hope. But as you can see here, we've at least been able to protect ourselves for a lot
No,
longer.
and I think that's a good, and it's perspective, and from the city's perspective, I think we're looking really good with the rates and that you've had invested in it. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adams?
Thanks. You kind of already answered the question, but as you see Sutton, and with these, there are no normal. If it goes Sutton, then we're really in trouble.
Yeah.
But we have the mechanism in place that will allow you to react fast enough so that we don't lose? And if not, what do we need to do?
Yeah, sure. So what you see here on this chart, what the distribution there, really anything that we've invested beyond overnight is locked in. And I think that's the great thing here is that, God forbid the Fed have to step in and cut interest rates to zero like they have in the past. They can. And so that would really only impact your overnight products. So anything that's invested beyond overnight, we've secured that. We've held on to it for that term. So that's the nice thing about how we invest is it's buy and hold, and you're guaranteed that principal and interest back at maturity. And so to your point, yes, we can only do so much at a time because, working with Judith's team, we have to make sure we're adhering to day-to-day liquidity needs and, upcoming expenses. But her team does a great job of communicating to us for us to be able to leverage that. And so then, we really feel like we're maximizing the dollars here at work.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. And for the record, the city is in a good place, but we do have to focus on the future.
Correct.
And I thank you all for sharing that information, because today we are great. But like Councilmember Adams say, tomorrow anything could happen, and we are in good standing.
Sure.
Thank you both. Ms. Judith, thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 24043, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an advance funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the West Rancier Avenue project.
Mr. Revelle and Mr. Andrew. It's good to see both of you.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, and to the City Council, City Manager, Assistant City Manager. The advanced funding agreement with TxDOT for the Rancier project. As you all are aware, back in October of 2020, the city had applied for a grant to allow us to do sidewalk improvements along the stretch of Rensselaer from 195 of Fort Hood to W.S. Young Drive. That grant was approved and put in as a part of the Transportation Improvement Plan, where there is a contribution of about $2.8 million associated with federal dollars for construction costs. And so this advanced funding agreement is really being presented to you to allow that effort to continue to move forward, with the understanding that we have had the opportunity to look closer at that project and adjust the scope, and then have further opportunities to have that conversation with K-Tempo and also with TxDOT to extend that scope and that funding, or the funding to that scope. So the project is currently under design, as you all are aware. It's being funded through TERS 2. We've done preliminary design. They got some preliminary layouts that we'll show a little bit later. Again, this agreement is really focused on that initial grant allocation and making sure we preserve our place and we continue to move along in the process. And then we will, if after the execution of this, hopefully on next week, we'll have an opportunity to continue to work with K-Tempo and TxDOT, as I mentioned, to make sure that we have that funding support that matches the current project scope. In addition, we are also continuing to seek grant dollars. We just recently actually applied for one of the federal grants called the RAISE grant on last month. We asked for, I believe it was $25 million to support this project. We feel very good about that, but obviously it's a competitive program. And then the next few slides really show the project extent from the gate itself all the way on down past, I think this is Park, if I'm not mistaken, North Park, just really showing some of the treatments that can happen as it relates to this grant. The primary focus in this corridor is allowing for on-street parking, also allowing for better control with access management. I don't know if you know this, but there are over 100 points along this corridor where access happens. And so there's really a need to try to control that better, put some of that on some of the side streets. And then also along this corridor, utilities will be underground. There will be opportunities for pedestrians with the 6 feet sidewalk paths and shared use paths, and then also opportunities for bicyclists. This corridor here actually emphasizes from 2nd Street, and this is 10th Street, but it emphasizes what we're calling our downtown segment. We really want to have a highlighted focus on placemaking, a highlighted focus on pedestrian experience and pedestrian safety, while still having those other components associated with allowing this corridor to serve more than just vehicles, to serve people, to serve bicyclists as well. I would mention also, and this was actually on the other schematic as well, you'll see along the way that there's opportunities for medians, raised median, hopefully to help with, again, controlling traffic, also to create, that beautified kind of corridor look that we'd like to create here in Phil. And then the corridor continues to, this is W.S. Young here. And then we wrap up just shy of 38th Street North. And again, this is really just presenting where we are currently. That design is still underway, but the essence of this request tonight is just to make sure that we keep our place in line with the funding that we have through K-Tempo. Prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Revelle and your team. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just from what I see so far, I'm impressed with the schematic design, which I believe will enhance our walkability, as well as the appearance of Rensselaer and complement redevelopment efforts once those really start kicking off at some point. I did note there's 2 intersections along Rensselaer that still have the cable and wood pole mounted traffic signals. And those would be at W.S. Young and Rancier, as well as Rancier and Alexander. We're working to incorporate the mast and pole similar
We
to
are
our
making-
our
we are-
regular traffic signals across
Yes, we're
town.
working to make improvements there. Mr. Zegers, do you want to give details?
So yeah, as we look at redesigning this, we're going to be incorporating decorative streetlights, and as well, we're getting rid of the cable signals and get them into a more mast arm decorative type pole to kind of enhance that whole area.
Very good, great. And section C-C showed, I guess that large intersection, was that 10th Street and Rancier, where we kind of want to make an emphasis to that entrance?
I believe
Or was that
10th
Gilmer?
10th was, yeah, we're looking at,
Yeah.
I think that's right about where the Starbucks is.
Sure.
Yeah, we're looking at doing more of a landscape type of area, using it more of enhancing the corners, I think
Sure,
was what
sure.
the preliminary was. More of a pedestrian feel, bench area, kind of like a little pocket
Gotcha.
park area.
Yeah, just an idea I'd like to toss out. I've heard discussion about potentially moving the existing tank and helicopter that we have out here with this park to make room for that future park downtown. I would recommend taking those two monuments if we have enough right-of-way. If we acquire enough right-of-way, excuse me, to place those two monuments there as kind of as an entrance coming off Rancier, which comes from from Fort Cavazos into downtown. Just a thought. But that's all I have. Really impressed with how it's looking so far. Thank you.
Thank you, and I echo the same sentiments. I think this is something that has been going on for many years, and I appreciate you guys continuing it, and I think that we are going to see something at the end. And I've always said this is kind of the gateway to the base. And I know that the base would be very excited. Have we had conversations with them, with the base and all that?
We have, and we've actually, as part of the RAISE grant, we got letters of support from the base commander.
Fantastic,
for this.
fantastic. And the other aspect of it, and, talking about moving tanks and stuff like that, have we thought about making some kind of, not a memorial, what do you say, decorate in honor of our soldiers, since it goes, there's a gate right there. And that's a thoroughway where a lot of soldiers come out, especially during lunch. And this is just something to throw out, I know, but, thought about, making it some kind of, a place where it recognizes our soldiers, and I know we do, like downtown, we get a lot of compliments when the city puts out those banners of those soldiers, but since it is a corridor to the entry there on Fort Hood, or Fort Cavazos, excuse me, thinking about kind of putting something that would honor that, honor, and working with different organizations, just like what we did with the Modern Warfare. We were able to raise over $25 million, private money, when we did that. And if we were able to come up with some kind of idea that, since it's a gateway, maybe we'd be able to get even more money and make it, even better, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea as we move forward. We're just in the schematic preliminary, but, I mean, by redoing this corridor, upsizing it, provides a lot of opportunity, whether it's through this project, other grants, other art commissions. I mean, it provides a, open book of what we can do. And then, of course, working with the base. We're just starting and get through the preliminary part. We do have an open house coming up. We're working on finalizing the details to get more input from the public, but it's gonna, keep transitioning, keep getting developed as we move forward on the
No,
design.
and I appreciate that, because, I mean, it took, over 10 years just to get started. And so we're here, we're started, so, I mean, we just got to keep that ball rolling, because I always said that, Rancier, to me, it creates an identity of the city. If we can change that, it would go a long way to changing the perspective of the city. The downside of it, I know that there's always two sides to everything, but, the downside is what is it called when values go up and gentrification? But that's a problem for another time that we hope we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know at the last K-Tempo meeting, we voted, what was updated, the carbon reduction project goes from Fort Hood Street, Fort Hood Street to W.S. Young.
Correct.
And one of my questions is, and I'm sure it's going to be asked from the public, why stop at 38th? But with that, what do we need to do, or do we need to get other funding to go from W.S. Young to 38th?
So this grant was the original application that was done, which was just sidewalk, getting a sidewalk out there on one side from Fort Hood to W.S. Young. The project has been expanded. We're going all the way to 38th because that is the limit of the city street. Beyond 38th, it's a TxDOT highway. And so we're making sure that we're going to improve the corridor, everything we need within the portion of the road that's ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then potentially more funding if we get some of the Safe Streets for All grant as well.
Safe Street, we're not stopping at just one grant application. We're going to be aggressive on this. You know, we do have TERS funding, we have opportunities with that, but anytime we have an opportunity to get grant and get free dollars, we're going to go after it. With K-Tempo right now, we're securing this. There's later on this year, it's a matter of adjusting with their TIP and getting the scheduling, getting it, how's it aligned, but it also opens up the door for more negotiations for more funding.
Okay, thankfully, we got 3 members on that board. We can stay. So the public knows, a bulk of our ADA issues, I think some of them have been on Rancier. So this will start, what's the earliest construction date based off of your design?
Believe the earliest, because we have federal dollars, we have to follow a lot of the federal requirements. I think the earliest, probably be 26 is when we can probably get some dirt moving if we separate out the utilities, but realistically, probably 27 for the bulk of the sidewalk and all the other improvements. But as we work on the design, I think we're looking at separating, get all the underground, get the utilities, get that going first, and kind of prep for all the other stuff, and then see what we can do.
I appreciate that.
RS 24044, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an advanced funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the Chaparral Road Phase 1 project.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, there we go. So this is very similar. This is advanced funding agreement associated with the Chaparral Road Phase 1 project. This is different in the sense that this is a road widening project. The other one was more so of a road dieting project. But here, this project was a part of the K-Tempo grant, part of the Transportation Improvement Plan, approved for construction dollars in the amount of, as you can see, federal participation of $10.3 million. The project is currently under preliminary design, and so far it's expected to be, that preliminary design is expected to be completed by summer of this year. This advance of funding agreement, again, will allow us to move forward based on the current scope that we have with TxDOT. Again, we will have an opportunity to work with them to update funding opportunities that TxDOT may have and K-Tempo may have to align better with the current project scope. We are also continuing to seek additional grant funding associated with this project. And then just to see the funding extent, remember, this Phase 1 actually goes from Fort Hood along Chaparral to East Tremere, but the entire project will actually go to Stillhouse Lake Road. And so the grant funding is really along those 2 limits, and of course, we've done the work for these 2 limits, so that's why we got to have a little bit more conversation. But again, we'd like to move this agreement forward based on what we currently have, so that we keep our place and keep our dollars, with the understanding that we'll have opportunities for more conversations to align possible other more federal dollars with our current scope. And staff is recommending that next week, the city manager be authorized to execute this agreement.
There you go. Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Yes, ma'am. RS 24045, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the City of Killeen to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the United States Army Garrison Fort Cavazos for the Syntex Sustainable Communities Partnership.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Yes, ma'am. This is an opportunity to continue what's been long established since 2009, in partnership with Fort Cavazos and a number of cities across central Texas. As it relates, I know there was a question about, what would this cost the city? There's no new money. It's just staff time and staff effort. And it's staffs collaborating across cities to deal with projects that have environmental benefits. So it could be a project, it could be a community cleanup project to a household hazardous waste project. And one could actually say that you actually could save money because you're working across efforts. This initiative, the partners will be cooperating for all the things that's mentioned on the slide. I know for the sake of time, I won't read it all. And really, staff is recommending that we continue this agreement, this long-established agreement, for the next 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is almost a no-brainer, so hopefully next week it'll go, because this is something that the Department of Defense, and I'm not representing them, does across its whole domain to be a good neighbor with all its communities. So thanks, Madam Mayor, for signing the proclamation, and I support the memorandum of agreement.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for this information and just kind of what you brought to it. Just a question related to some of these two potential initiatives. Are they kind of environmental related, targeted, or is it just something everyone discusses?
Yeah, it's mostly environmental related.
Okay.
It's really in that context of sustainability.
Okay.
Just working, so the city has stormwater management programs. A lot of that's tied to the environmental stuff. Some of your sustainability programs do more than that, but a lot of the focus is really on just trying to make sure that we have a better, improved quality of place.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Is there any potential discussion that could occur that may affect our growth plans in the future if we're trying to align with these priorities with the military, with Fort Cavazos in mind?
I believe those conversations can happen. They may not happen as a part of this, but I do believe that those conversations most certainly can happen. Yes, sir.
Okay. Would this group be responsible for discussions on noise pollution around the base?
Has there been any? Yeah, I don't think so.
So what this partnership is with all the cities is really to educate the public, really get the information and knowledge about sustainability. The emphasis really has been a lot about stormwater education, public education, partnership with schools, recycling, working with recycling and programs with competitions between a lot of the school districts. That's kind of been the main emphasis of what Centex has been about. Obviously, any education in regard to pollution, but nothing directly related to maybe something that's noise on the base, but more just dealing with public.
And you funneled it down to me. It is exactly based on sustainability.
Correct.
Just to reiterate kind of what the mayor was mentioning earlier, Section 5 of the agreement does state in regards to decision-making, I think it's important to read this out loud, although majority consensus is desirable, any party who for some reason cannot support an initiative is allowed to abstain or withdraw without repercussion from participation in that project. Approval of participation in any project or initiative is subject to the approval of the entity's governing body. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Ravel and Mr. Zagers. I'm happy to see that the city is going to renew this agreement with Fort Cavazos and continue to be a member of this Centex Sustainable Communities Partnership. I was one of the staff liaisons in this committee when I worked for the city of Killeen, and we talk so much right now about water conservation, but you can't talk about water conservation without talking about stormwater. And a lot of the great things that you see in this community, as you elated to, that surround stormwater come out of these partnerships. So absolutely glad to see that we're continuing down that road. Thank you.
Mr. Cagle.
I would just say that mayors have been signing these proclamations since 2009. So I don't know why it's an issue now, but it should not be.
Thank you for clearing that, you and Mr. Boyd, but it's just want to make it clear, I did not sign a proclamation prior only for this particular one. But, Mr. Andrew, Public Works, Utility and Drainage, they won an award on behalf of the city. Would you please, I don't remember their names,
So,
I don't have it. Would you please highlight them?
So, yes, so last week we had our annual award kind of presentation through Centex as presented by the base commander. Every community has to, they recognize an individual or a group that perform well, that really emphasize the Centex partnership and the goals of the sustainability. The City of Killeen, we nominated and awarded our Public Works Drainage, Mowing, and Drainage Department for all their work they do within the city in regard to cleanups, participating in stream cleanups, mowing the right-of-ways, taking care of the right-of-ways, taking care of the streams and our waterways. It's a small group that does a lot of work. I don't have all the details of how many miles of area that they cover every year, but we reached out and we recognized that group for all their work they do for the city.
Thank you, Mowing and Drainage.
There was
I don't know
mowing and
why I had the
drainage out of Public
utility
Works.
company on my mind. But yes, thank you for that, Mr. Andrew, your team, Mr. Revere, for all that you do. Anyone else have kudos, comments? And Councilmember Alvarez, I did not know that you was a part of that, one of the founders on that committee. Yes, sir. Thank you for what you put in place when you worked for the city. Okay, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Revere.
RS 24046. Consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the award of bid number 2428, Pump Station Number 2 Rehabilitation Project to Barsh Construction with a contract in the amount of $2,272,859.14.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good evening, Mr. Abbott. I'm sorry, Mr.
I look a little
Kanye.
different.
Oh, I see Mr. Abbott in the back. I'm sorry, Mr. Kanye.
It's
How are
okay.
you doing, sir?
That's all right. We need a little bit of humor in these meetings, so.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The 2019 Water and Wastewater Master Plan includes Project R2W, which is for the rehabilitation of Pump Station Number 2, which was built in the early 1950s and is located at 301 South Park Street. This project includes architectural, electrical, and mechanical improvements to the existing pump station, which serves the northwestern part of the city. On February the 6th of this year, 4 bids were received from Barsh Construction, Bell Contractors, Seneca Construction, and Matus Construction. Barsh Construction is the selected vendor for bid 2428, Pump Station Number 2 Rehabilitation Project, as they are the responsive low bidder providing the best value to the city. So we are recommending to authorize the award of bid number 2428, Pump Station Number 2 Rehabilitation Project, to Barsh Construction, and authorize the city manager or designee to execute a construction contract in the amount of $2,272,859 with Barsh Construction. And furthermore, authorize the city manager or designee to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about this.
Mr. Kanye, thank you for your briefing, and Mr. Reynolds, this is your first meeting back. Welcome, hello. It's good to see you. With that being said, you do have questions for council members. Is Council Member Mayor Pro Tem on Zoom? Okay, she went off, okay. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, thank you. One of the questions that was asked by citizens had to do with the cost. Well, the citizen brought up the cost. Can you explain why I saw that most of the costs are going between 2.2 and 2.8 million, I think it is. Why the cost like that? Is that the market? Is it the materials? Could you explain that, please?
A lot of it is the market. The original estimate on this was around as we got towards the end, it was up to about 1.8 million. But again, with everything costing more, and where the market is at, I mean, we're seeing this again constantly. I think one of the things that was said, and again, this is a rehab project, but it's pretty extensive. There's architectural work as well, so the design includes work from an architect because that building, the pump station building, has some issues. And so there was quite a bit of work being done with that. Electrical, as well as, again, replacing pumps. We're also putting in variable frequency drives to be able to kind of hold pressure at certain times within that northwestern part of the city. So it's a pretty extensive project. And again, the pump station's been around since the 50s, so it's deeply in need of this work.
And that leads to the second question. What are the risks if council does not approve this?
The risk, as far as if not approving this, is the station will continue on. But again, you could get into catastrophic situations where, again, we have a bunch of the pumps all fail. And this station is important, but it's not as critical as, say, like Pump Station 5, which is a much larger pump station that feeds that area as well. So again, for us to continue on in operating the system the most efficiently, yes, we need this station.
Okay, and then assuming if we went from 1.8 to 2.2, that if we wait to do this, it'll go up further.
That's what we're seeing.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I received the council packet, and this one had a contract this thick, and I didn't get to go through all of it.
Sure.
No, I'm missing something through what I did review. The footprint for the project, how large is the footprint, and what is the construction timeline for this, should it get approved?
Sure. The footprint is basically the side of Pump Station 2, which is, again, just a little bit south across VMB on Park Street. So it's that footprint, all of that is going to stay the same as far as the site. Okay. Timeline on it originally was probably about a year. But again, with big electrical type items, we saw that especially with the Chaparral Pump Station, where you have some 18-month time periods for some of these electrical items. So we're looking at now more like 18 months on this project.
Got it. Thank you for that. And also thank you guys for being, or Public Works Department for being proactive. This is another proactive measure in my view. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanye. Mr. Reynolds, there's no more questions. Madam Secretary.
RS 24047. Consider a memorandum resolution approving the replacement of the municipal court audio-visual system with GTS Technology Solutions in an amount of $52,619.64.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Resto.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The item before you tonight is the municipal court audio-video replacement. I do want to point out a few people before I start off, so we can, if your questions in the end. We have the judge here who's been a part of this. This is in his budget. We're just providing the technical services for him. We also have GTS representatives in the back, and we also have my project manager, Gabe Cologne, who actually walked through and designed and helped design this as we go through it.
Chief, excuse me, do you have them to lower their voices out there? It's too loud. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Resto.
So the municipal court is in dire need of a comprehensive audio-video upgrade due to outdated systems not meeting the standards expected of a court of record. The current system is over 10 years old. We really couldn't pinpoint how old it is, but it's pretty ancient. It's unable to keep up with the modern technology requirements, posing risks of malfunction and disruptions in court proceedings. Investing in a new system will ensure better audio recording, remote controls for the court clerk, an updated assistant hearing system, and a modern projection capabilities. So it would be more reliable, efficient system will reduce maintenance, improve recording quality, and then by embracing the modern technology, we can improve the recording quality, enhance the new functionalities, and be compliant with the legal standards, and ultimately facilitate a fair and efficient administration of justice. So the staff recommends that the City Council approve the contract with GTS Technology Solutions in the amount not to exceed $52,619.64 using the TIPS and a DIR contracts, and that the city manager or designee be expressly authorized to execute any and all change orders within the amount set by state and local law. And I'm available to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Resto. You also have the next item.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I remember getting a tour of the municipal court, and I'm glad to see this item brought before us. I know the court's been working or making do with that existing AV hardware for years. How long might the process take to do the upgrade?
I don't think it's going to take long once we get the setup, but I could ask our integrator back here.
Sir, you can come up if you would like to speak to answer Councilmember Boyd question. They take and say which one's gonna go, okay?
Yeah, I think they're deciding.
You go, no, you go. Hey, good evening, sir. Would you please state your name for the record?
Of course. My name is Stephen Cappy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Councilman Boyd, can you repeat your question?
We're estimating about 2 weeks
Oh,
for
great.
the installation process.
Outstanding. That's it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank
You
you.
have any more questions, Councilman Boyd? You can stand by just in case, sir. Councilmember Adams.
I guess the judge can answer this question. This helps to do remote cases as well? And have you been limited because of the aging?
I don't really know much about the previous system, but this one will have Teams conferencing capabilities.
Okay, so that will help with some of the warrant issues that the judge had brought up before for people appearing. I guess, Judge Krishna?
We are also, just so, as an FYI, we are also adding in the hallway as you come in, a display to show the dockets. One of the things that they experience when people come in, they don't know their time for their appear in court. Well, their information will be there as they're waiting, and they don't have to find a clerk. So that was one of the enhancements that we put in as well.
Okay.
And I'll let the judge answer the other question.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Adams, you're asking about the warrants.
Well, just appearances in general.
Well, it should definitely help with the appearances, especially having the docket system on a monitor outside of the courtroom. Because right now we have to put up manually the docket sheets, and sometimes people don't even know where what those are, where to find them. So they're confused about when to come into court, what time to come in, so they're late, disrupts the court. There's a whole bunch of issues with the audiovisual system inside the court as well. That you may already know about. Mr. Resto and IT, they were able to get us a nice big TV so we can do the court presentations on TV, display people's videos if they have, if they want to talk to the prosecutor about their cases. The prosecutor can show the evidence, the video evidence, so they can see their cases, which is really good because the TV is nice and big, they can see it. But also, I also give I read everyone their rights for arraignments. I have a video presentation where they can see it there. But also, the video is great, but the audio is in dire need of upgrading because the microphone system is very old. It doesn't work very well. It causes a lot of noises. It's just a very old system. So this should help with people coming in, get out of there faster. Remember when I became the judge, I told you one of my biggest issues was having the court very efficient. I'm trying to make the court as efficient as possible. This is one way to make that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Krishna, I can honestly say since you have come on board along with Judge Simmons and your staff, you have brought us up to the 21st century. You are really focused on the future, not now. So when your time is up, whoever come in, all the programs, the IT, everything will be set in place so they will have, he or she, a better transition coming in to the courts. And thank you for your being a visionary.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I appreciate that. Thank you. I just want you to know that whenever I leave, I want the people who come in to replace me to be better off than when I came here.
Yes,
That's
sir.
my goal.
Thank you for your honest assessment.
Thank you.
Mr. Resto, your team and the visitors, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary.
RS 24048, consider a memorandum resolution authorizing the renewal of annual maintenance agreement of municipal court software in an amount of $258,282.
Thank you, Mr. Resta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you tonight is the municipal court encode software maintenance agreement renewal. The Tyler Technology court case management software is crucial for managing the municipal court functions, including automating document indexing, multiple document reviews, removal of closed cases from the databases, and automated email correspondence. It facilitates case management, warrant tracking, statistical reporting, and other essential activities. Utilizing the court notification modules ensure the compliance with state requirements for delinquency phone calls as mandated by Code of Criminal Procedures of the Texas Administrative Code. And some of the functions that we added in the last year, I think the judge had mentioned the texting, we added that. We've also added defense attorney, court public access. So we're making the software more accessible for the citizens. And this is a 3-year contract, software support contract within Code Court of $258,282. This is currently in my budget. I budget for this annually. We included all the other items that we put in, so got a really decent price. We were paying for things separately. So you can see the yearly with the 5% increases. And then the software support and maintenance agreement are only available from Tyler Technologies. Therefore, the purchase exempt from competitive building statutes in accordance with the Texas Local Government Code. The estimated expenses are not to exceed $258,282. And our recommendation is to execute the renewal of the software maintenance agreement with Tyler Technologies for 3 years. And I'm available to answer any of your questions that you may have.
Just a quick question. Is this interoperable? Will it work with like your other systems as well as does it work with the GTS system that if we prove that?
Well, it's going to get the docket information from here.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
that is part of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Resto. Madam
Thank you.
Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Councilmember Adams.
RS 24049, consider a memorandum resolution appointing presiding and alternate judges for the May 4th, 2024 general election.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
The city will conduct a general election on Saturday, May 4th, 2024. The Texas Election Code requires that a presiding judge and an alternate judge shall be appointed for each precinct in which an election is held, and that the governing body of a political subdivision shall appoint the judges. The City Secretary Division has identified qualified and experienced individuals to work as election officials for the May 4th, 2024 general election. The city secretary serves as the early voting clerk for the city and has the oversight to appoint deputy early voting clerks who essentially have the same duties and responsibilities as a presiding or alternate judge during election day, which is to maintain the peace and security of polling places and processes. And these are the individuals we have identified to work during early voting. A presiding judge oversees each precinct polling place on election day. The presiding judge is assisted by at least 2 election clerks, one of whom serves as the alternate presiding judge. The alternate judge serves as presiding judge when the presiding judge is not available. In addition to processing voters, the presiding judge is responsible for maintaining the security of the polling place. Before you is the list of election day presiding and alternate judges based on the polling location they will oversee on May 4th. And the list is continued of the election day presiding and alternate judges. And the list is continued again. In every city election, the early voting and provisional ballots are counted or processed for counting by an early voting ballot board. The presiding judge of the early voting ballot board has the responsibility to deliver written notice to voters whose mail ballots are rejected by the board. The early voting ballot board consists of a presiding judge, an alternate presiding judge, and at least one other member. In a city that uses an electronic voting system, the ballots are counted at one or more central counting stations. The central counting station also includes a presiding judge and an alternate presiding judge for each central counting station. And so these individuals can serve in both roles as early voting ballot board and central counting station. The presiding election judges, alternate presiding judges, and clerks shall be paid $20 per hour for serving in such capacities, and the election judges and/or alternate judges shall be paid an additional $25 for delivering the returns of such election to the city secretary for proper tabulation. A judge or clerk may not be paid for more than 2 hours of work before the polls open, or voting machines are used more than 2 hours after the polls close, or the last voter has voted, whichever is later. The early voting ballot board central counting station judge is entitled to be paid for a minimum of 5 hours, plus any additional hours worked at a rate of $20 per hour. The early voting ballot board central counting station alternate judge and clerk are entitled to be paid for a minimum of 3 hours, plus any additional hours worked at the rate of $20 per hour. The total estimated cost to pay the workers to operate 3 polling locations during early voting and 8 polling locations on election day is $33,000. Clean ISD will reimburse the city for their share of the cost. Staff recommends City Council appoint presiding and alternate judges for the May 4th, 2024 general election, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Quick question again. Do you keep an alternate list in case Murphy takes over and somebody gets sick and they have to step up?
Yes, sir.
And does that need to come back to council?
No, sir.
Okay.
That is what is considered an emergency basis. And so my office has identified 4 essentially overhires for election day in case that may happen, and 1 for early voting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a question earlier during citizen comments about this item, questioning, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but we'll ask it. Election judges are not judges. They're called judges, but it's not like a court of law judge.
Yes, sir. I did write down that question as well. I understood that they are judges that the city hires, but they are election judges, and they serve in that capacity. And I think there was also some confusion about county judges, which during the primary right now, the county has hired their own election workers that are serving as presiding or alternate judges for the election.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. RS 24050, consider a memorandum resolution accepting approximately 15 parcels totaling 63.5 acres for future park development through a prior land dedication credit to offset future parkland dedication agreement.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mrs. Snook, Miss Snook. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is item to accept approximately 63.5 acres for future park development. The purpose of this item is approval for the acceptance of approximately 15 parcels totaling 63.5 acres for future park development through a prior land dedication credit to offset future parkland dedication agreement. In compliance with the Parkland Dedication Ordinance, the developer has entered into an agreement with the City of Killeen for the dedication of approximately 15 tracts totaling 63.5 acres of land in 3 locations. The Killeen Code of Ordinances, Section 26-135, Section C states, Land proposed for dedication to the city under this division shall be reviewed by the planning director and recommended by the Parks Director. Killeen Code of Ordinances, Section 26-137D states, land proposed for dedication that is off-site from the parcel being proposed for development that is requiring it shall be located in the same park benefit zone. Rather than accepting each property's individual acreage amount, staff finds that the proposed parkland dedication meets the criteria outlined in Section 26-137 and furthers the goals and objectives as outlined in the Parks, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan. The parkland dedication sites are in 3 locations, as you can see on this map. 1 is located adjacent to the Stone Tree Golf Course, and 2 are located on the west side of Killeen off of Bunny Trail. The first parcel off of Bunny Trail is approximately 33.817 acres and has a land feature in the center known as one of the McMillan Mountains. The second group is 1 large parcel and 7 residential lots that are located on a parcel that also has 2 sort of mountain areas that are part of the McMillan Mountains. And then the third location is 1 large parcel and several smaller lots that is adjacent to the driving range at Stone Tree Golf Course. Option 1 is to deny the request as written, or option 2 to accept the proposed prior land dedication credit of approximately 15 parcels from Gary W. Purser Jr. on behalf of CTDC LLC developer totaling 63.5 acres for future park development in accordance with Section 26-137 of the Killeen Code of Ordinances. Parks and Recreation Department recommends acceptance of this prior land dedication credit of approximately 15 parcels totaling 63.5 acres for future park development in accordance with Section 26-137 of the Killeen Code of Ordinances. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Ms. Snook. Councilmember Boyd have a question for you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam
Yes, sir.
Mayor. Actually, no questions, just a comment. I want to make a motion, but this is not that meeting. So this is a wonderful day for parks in District 4. With the vote next week, the city is prepared to take possession of a 25-acre parcel of land along Bunny Trail, along with a 35-acre parcel for dedicated future park space. We're making continual progress on the establishment of parks in West Killeen. And I know I may be the main advocate for this, but truth is the credit goes to the entire council for understanding the need and working to meet that need. I also want to say on behalf of the residents of District 4, a sincere thank you to Mr. Gary Purser, who determined to donate these tracts of land to meet this community need. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, and I share that same sentiment, so congratulations to District 4, City of Killeen. Again, thank you to Mr. Purser as well. Now, for me, for District 1, though, the parcel that's going to be connected to the golf course is particularly of interest and very exciting to hear. I was able to tour that facility and also speak with the director there, and so this is going to be a huge opportunity for the golf course to expand and the driving range and to make some really much needed improvements in that particular at that particular facility. So I'm very excited also for that particular option that we have coming up here for our golf course. So again, thank you for presenting this to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez. Ms. Snook, for the golf course, what are you gonna, if the council approve this, what will we use to put on there? Will it be a park or something, or?
So we do not have specific plans for this parcel. As stated, it is adjacent to the driving range, so potentially there might be some associated use there. But there is not a specific plan for it. It would need to be master planned.
Okay, whatever the land that's donated, it will be, your decision would be based on the park's master plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, because I know they were talking about, I'm not sure if it was Councilwoman Gonzalez or Councilmember Boyd. They had gone, or somebody else, could have been Councilmember Alvarez, about more space at the golf course. So the driving range is right out there, that if it's that close to expand it. I'm not saying what to do, but that if it's that close together, that would be, an option, I guess. But they did bring it, or said something, but I can't remember it right now. Kind of fuzzy on my medication. But Councilmember Boyd, I'm assuming you're going to clarify that for me.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
So I went and received a update on District 4 park opportunities yesterday at the golf course and met with our wonderful Parks Director and our Assistant City Manager. And I believe Councilwoman Gonzalez had a meeting following mine. And I was also there to get a tour of the golf course because I have not had a comprehensive tour of the golf course. Not a golfer, at least not at the moment. And so we got to see those tracks this tract of land here particularly, once we made it out to the driving range. And if I'm not mistaken, our consultant with Troon, that's the name of the company if I'm not mistaken, mentioned his recommendation was to grub that back or push down a bunch of the cedar to make additional room for the driving range, which made all the sense to me. And I think there's also an opportunity to potentially push a trail through there should imaginations go that far, but there's some clarity on that.
Thank you. And also, I don't know what you have in mind, but I also would like to hear some decision that you and your team have made. But that's what I was thinking, so close together that it would be. But hey, that's just me, not my field, but recommendation. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yeah, so it was actually very exciting, the possibilities. And so I think that actually raises something we'll bring up at a future meeting as far as a conversation about a master plan or some sort of business plan for maximizing our efficiency at this golf course and figuring out new ways and innovative ways. I know Ms. Snook has a lot of opportunity ideas as well to be able to do that. So I look forward to that discussion.
Yes, ma'am. So you're going to take the parks master plan, and then you're going to come back to us with how we're going to use that, even though we had some recommendations on that. So,
Yes.
And it may be a motion or direction. I don't even know. So, Councilmember Boyd, or somebody have a motion or direction, because y'all having conversation. So if I missed something, please clarify it now. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Well, one of the things I'd like to see, now am I able to make a motion of direction for future discussion item regarding the business plan potentially? Okay, so I would like to do that, then that would make sense then as it
Yes.
relates to this. So if we can make a motion of direction to add for future discussion, Parks Master Plan and Business Plan as it relates to specifically my parcel, and if you wanted to add anything, Councilmember Boyd, to yours, but specifically for the golf course.
I'll second the one for the golf course.
So Councilmember Gonzalez, your motion or direction is what?
To put a future agenda item for discussion of a Parks Master Plan for the golf course as well as a business plan discussion.
And we have a second to that motion of direction is Councilmember Boyd. And the reason, Councilwoman Gonzalez, I brought up the master plan, it's something we voted on. I mean, we have our idea, but we already voted. The council may say we still want that, but I think out of common courtesy to have that discussion with her about what they foresee, because we voted on that plan. So that is why, no disrespect to you or Councilmember Boyd, but out of respect for the director, that's why.
And out of respect, Madam,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
were on tour with Ms. Snook. She was present during that meeting, and so we did get to have that conversation and hear her input. And that's also why I'm excited about some of her vision that she had for this particular project. And so I do think it's important that the council also explore those
Thank you,
opportunities with her.
because we didn't hear it. Thank you very much to both of you. All in favor of this motion or direction, yes. All opposed, no.
RS 24051, consider a memorandum resolution renaming the Fort Hood Regional Trail to Fort Cavazos Regional Trail.
Yes, ma'am. This item is consideration of renaming the Fort Hood Regional Trail. The purpose is approval for the renaming of the Fort Hood Regional Trail to Fort Cavazos Regional Trail. Sorry, don't know what I did there. Okay. Fort Hood changed its name to Fort Cavazos on January 18th, 2022. The recommended renamed Fort Cavazos Regional Trail will be consistent with the name change by the military base. This recommended name change conforms to the City of Killeen renaming of city facilities and name changes, renaming of city streets policy and guidelines adopted via resolution March 28th, 2023. Option 1 is to deny the request as written, or option 2 to approve the renaming of the trail to Fort Cavazos Regional Trail. The Recreation Services Advisory Board and Parks and Recreation Department recommend the renaming of the trail to the Fort Cavazos Regional Trail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's more than appropriate to rename the 1 Mile Fort Hood Regional Trail located in West Killeen. It was suggested to me actually to consider removing the military designation, of which I believe would unnecessarily disturb both the expectations and continuity of our great partnership with our local military. Furthermore, if anyone has not visited the trail, it's at the intersection of Robinette and Elms Road. Nice trail to visit. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. RS 24052.
You have a question? You have a comment? I'm sorry, you keep me in check. Thank you for looking out for me. Thank you. He was trying to say, I forget to turn it on when I speak. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. Mr. Cagle.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and council, as you know, we've had a bond advisory committee with, that had 9 members. We only ever had 8 appointed, but they were appointed May 9, 23. And the purpose was to receive information on the proposed projects, provide input possibly on other projects, and provide recommendations to the city council. There are 6 members that have attended regularly. We've had 2 that have not attended any of the meetings. So it was, our recommendation that the 2 that have not been attending, and we've had 2 applicants that have volunteered and have attended a meeting, Mr. Harry Sullivan and Mr. Larry Robinson, to fill those vacant positions. And we still have 1 that could be filled if the council so desires. And I believe Councilmember Solomon had someone that he wanted to recommend. We just haven't been able to get in touch with them yet.
Yes, sir, because my appointee, because of family crisis, won't be able, but since Councilman Solomon has someone in District 2, since I live in District 2, I'm okay as long as they're willing to work and show up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilmember Board has a comment too. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Zagar, you were first.
I just had a question, because you said we got 8 members on there, right, or is it 9? 8?
Well, there's supposed to be 9, but we've only had 8 appointments.
And have we ever had a quorum? I think.
Well, we have now. We had trouble to start with, but we have, the last meeting, we did have a quorum.
Quorum, and in order for a quorum, you need 6 or 8?
5.
Oh, 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so before you couldn't even get 5? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No, I'm just asking, because I know when we originated that, I think the agreement was, what the council decided was 8?
No, it was 9.
It was 9?
Yes,
9? Okay, because if we're having a problem, I mean, right now, we're good if we're going to fill those, but if we are in a problem, my question was, do we need to bring that number down? But maybe that's something for future if we don't get a quorum here. But just curious.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mr. Kagan, have all the council members gave you the names?
Well, originally, there were 8 appointments from each of you and one that you did collaboratively, but I think Councilmember Segarra did not appoint anyone. The two that you have, the 2 names that we have here, they showed up to the last meeting and asked if they could be included. And we said, well, you can't just volunteer, you got to be appointed by the city council. So they filled out applications and forwarded them to the city secretary.
So that would fill all the positions.
No, there'd still, well,
The one person that I have,
well, there's one position that's been vacant completely, and we have 2 other positions where the appointees have not made a single meeting. So I think it's like we have 3 vacancies.
so these are the 2 for the ones that have not shown up. And then the one that has not been appointed, that's the person you're trying to call on the phone, and all our positions will be filled. If you can get him or her.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to shed some light on this GEO bond, considering my appointee expressed some reluctance for its approval, which was a surprise to me. And I'll be serious here. The approval or disapproval of the upcoming GEO bond is going to be consequential for our city. We are literally at a nexus of definable progress downtown and an opportunity to establish a desperately needed municipal center downtown and quality of life improvements citywide. There remains a need to consolidate many of our city departments into one building, to include human resources, which has no windows on their building, and finance, who is completely out of space, and an outdated, undersized municipal court that you can see we're putting money into. And other important needs like an additional library, a youth center, and parkland where it is lacking. Ultimately, I remain optimistic that the 2024 Bond Committee will produce the necessary traction to engage our citizenry on how important this bond election truly is. If not, the city is going to be spending a lot of money on maintaining old buildings, and citizens will experience missed opportunities regarding their quality of life. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyd, that is a good way to explain, but what I like about it, the council presented, as you stated, and let the people decide. It's not 3 or 4, 5, 6 people. It's the majority of the people, how they want to see our city grow. So just like we changed the charter or any other big item, we allow the people to make that decision. So I agree with you on everything you said. This committee is essential on our 2020-40 comprehensive plan on how this city grows. Thank you. Well said. Any other comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Cagle. Madam Secretary.
Public hearings. PH 24007. Hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 8 of the City of Killeen Code of Ordinances by amending Section 8-1 and adding Section 8-242, establishing water use standards and providing for the implementation of a vehicle wash facility annual certification program.
Thank you, Mr. Ravel. Welcome back. And Mr. Abbott, this is something that ever since you came on board that you had talked about ways to manage the way we move forward with our ordinances. And this is one of them that you're bringing forward to change up things. Mr. Abbott, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. To the mayor and to the council, city manager, assistant city manager, this item, if you will recall, back on September the 5th of last year, the council received a presentation on options for trying to address water conservation as it relates to car washes. After that, there was a motion of direction given on November the 14th to move forward to staff with setting up a vehicle wash facility certification program. Again, looking at a focus on the car washers to see what can be done to ensure that they were implementing and operating water conservation-based measures and practices. Tonight, and then also what you will consider on next week, is a proposed item to set up that program at the council's direction for the Vehicle Wash Facility Annual Certification Program. And as noted on the slide, again, ensuring that car washes are using best water use practices, and then also meeting certain facility certification requirements. And I'd like to point out that's for new, and then for certain existing conveyor system, in-bay automatic system, and self-service car washes. And I've got succeeding slides that will help clearly understand which car washes we're talking about. But the first part of the program really deals with, or really the meat of the program really deals with modifying the existing plumbing code that we have in place. And so there is an ordinance amendment, and all the bullets on the slides what those amendments would entail. First, establishing the annual certification program for the car washes. Two, setting up the definitions for the different car wash systems that would be subject to the standards and requirements. The third bullet really deals with ensuring that the conveyor system car washes and new conveyor system and new in-bay automatic system car washes come equipped with water recycling systems. And then those existing conveyor system and existing in-bay automatic system car washes that are already equipped with those systems, make sure that they are required to implement and operate them. Then the fourth bullet deals with that each car wash, in terms of the in-bay automatic and new conveyor system car washes, in terms of the new ones, would have limits associated with maximum fresh water that could be used per vehicle. And then the self-wash car washes would have limits that control the rate of flow that as vehicles are washed by people using the self-service car wash. And then also there is an enforcement section. So the specific ordinance requirements, first thing I just want you to know, this picture really depicts what we mean by conveyor system car washes. That's the typical car wash that you may have a subscription or a membership with, and you go when you want to based on that monthly subscription, and you put your car in, and it kind of takes your car through the system. So that's the conveyor system car wash. What we're saying for these new car washes, and then I'll also make sure I deal with the last bullet with the existing ones, that they have to be equipped with a water recycling system that allows for 50% reuse of water. And then we're also saying that on average for each vehicle that's serviced, that they can use no more than 35 gallons of fresh water. And then we're also saying that they have to ensure that there'll be no water leaks present in their vehicle washing equipment. That's for the new conveyor system car washes. If there is an existing conveyor system car wash and it's equipped with a water recycling system, this program will require that they use that system and that they meet the standards that I've previously said. The new in-bay automatic system, so that's basically the stationary system. You just kind of put your car in and it does the thing and then you go out. Those must be also equipped with a water recycling system. If they're newly built, they have to be equipped with that water recycling system. They can use no more than 45 gallons per vehicle for fresh water per wash. And then they have to ensure no leaks or presence in the vehicle wash equipment. And then if there is an existing in-bay automatic system car wash that is equipped with the water recycling system, then they're going to have to use it and operate it, meeting the standard above. And when I say the standard above, I really should say it's the first bullet, the first bullet standard, and this third bullet standard. Okay. The new self-service car washes, that's the one where, it's stationary. You just pull the vehicle in and you do the washing. You do the washing yourself, so it's not equipment control really. And they have to use spray wands that control the flow rate, so many gallons per minute. And then also they have to ensure that there's no leaks present in the vehicle washing equipment. And then if it's an existing self-service car wash, then they have to just ensure that there are no leaks present in the existing vehicle equipment. Now, the annual certification program requirements, really just trying to make sure it's clear what car washes this applies to. So the new conveyor system, the new in-bay automatic systems, and the new self-service car washes will have to comport with all of the standards that I previously mentioned. Second bullet, if it's an existing conveyor system or existing in-bay system and it's equipped with that water recycling system, then they'll have to meet that performance standard of no more than 50% of the new water being used. And then the third bullet is basically saying that all existing in new vehicle car washes will continue to be subject to existing standards that's on our books related to pre-treatment. So many car washes have to have an oil-water separator. And so they'll have to continue to make sure that they do that. They also have to continue to comport with requirements associated with backflow prevention that's handled by the Public Works Department, as well as grit trap waste requirements. So all car washes that are currently subject to what's in the third bullet, they will continue to be subject to that. And then as it relates to the certification program, there are a number of forms that we'll be using. So we're just kind of sharing that we'll have a certification application, facility information, what type of facility it is, and then what kind of equipment they have, they'll have to fill out. And then they'll also have to complete a certification agreement where they're agreeing to abide by the standards of the program, as well as authorizing city staff or designees to be able to do inspections as necessary. As the program continues, they will have to also complete a vehicle wash facility equipment evaluation form. So we talked about all those different standards that they'll have to meet. And so that form will be completed to be able to document that those standards are being met. And as was said, I think by one of the gentlemen from the public, there is a certified licensed plumbing inspector that will have to be engaged by the vehicle wash facility owner to complete the inspection checklist. And again, that checklist is just verifying that all those standards that I mentioned for each car wash is operating and it is in place. And then also, when necessary, a compliance plan will be completed. So if you complete the evaluation form and you find out that there are leaks present, and you complete the evaluation form and you find out that something is not working, then a compliance plan will have to be completed by that car wash, and then they will work with the city on a schedule for making those adjustments to come into compliance. Just quickly, as quickly as I can, the annual certification program requirements, just a breakout of responsibilities. Here, the car washes have to use the recycling systems as designed, maintain records demonstrating that they're using the water recycling systems, and then also make facilities available for inspections. City staff will be responsible for education and public awareness, also implementing the annual certification program. So it is an annual program. We're anticipating what we would do is we would pick a certain time of the year and take care of each car wash in this program. And as you can tell from what I've expressed, every car wash will be affected by this program. They each have different requirements. Whether you're new or existing, you still will be affected, and your type, you still will be affected. All will be affected by this program. And then also, we'll have to verify completed evaluation forms and track compliance plans. And then again, the licensed plumber, following water conservation practices and implementing compliance plans. And on the city side, continue to make sure we're keeping good records. We're coordinating with Public Works on the existing requirements that have to be met by car washes and a number of facilities all across the city anyway. And then also monitoring water consumption reports with coordinating with utility collections and taking enforcement actions as necessary. And then this chart really shows a comparison. When we went into developing this program, we did have the opportunity to look at other cities. And so this is a comparison of performance across the cities to kind of give you a feel for where we place the city of Killeen. And just to explain this more, GPV is gallons per vehicle. GPM is gallons per minute. And as you can see with Colleen in the last column, we're kind of lining up with some of the other programs, existing programs that are in place. Staff is recommending that on next week, the council consider approving the adoption of this program. And then also, I think this was also mentioned by a member of the public, that there was a meeting held by the Construction Board of Appeals on February the 15th. This program was introduced to that board, and they chose as a board to disapprove recommending it, or recommend disapproval of the amendment and program. I also have Mr. Abbott here with me, who is our city building official. We're prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Ravel, Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, water's been here since that term in the beginning. So the idea to manage it is not new. When I did the request, we went out and looked at TCEQ's standard, and working with city staff. The cities that were listed up there are places that already had an existing program and with similar water issues as we have. What was presented council now is the start. We will still need to address some other items, and the planning and zoning staff, planning development services staff will come back with another proposal for those other items where there's some issues that may be budgetary that would affect that. I want to thank Development Services for the work that you've done so far and what we have. And I think this is a step in the right direction for what we need to do and what we should have been doing a long time ago. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I would say we do believe that this is a fairly strong program. You know, if the council wants more, we're most certainly willing to do work to do more, but we do believe that this is fairly comprehensive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. Councilmember Boyd?
Thank you. This is indeed a comprehensive program. If I'm honest, it to me seems a little excessive, but it is a comprehensive program. My concern I have here is the fines that are associated with the enforcement, the neighboring municipalities, if you will, our annual evaluations for Austin, compliance plan for San Antonio, and San Marcos has the suspension. That's pretty extreme. The compliance plan approach, what would that look like?
So it basically would be working with them to make sure that whatever's not working or whatever their standard they're not meeting, that you just continue to work with them and monitor them to get them to meet that standard.
Sure. I wonder if, and I don't want to take away from this, but I wonder if we could, I don't know, can't really audit these companies obviously, but see if there's an existing deficiency relating to water usage, water waste, right? And then determine if we need to enforce a compliance plan based on that, as opposed to across the board, new and existing, having them just roll
Yes,
through this
sir.
program.
And we can do that. We envision as a part of this that when we're just starting this, that there has to be a lot of public education and a lot of public awareness. And we realize there has to be a lot of hand-holding and patience in working with them. So we anticipate that a majority of our effort will be, if we have somebody that's out of compliance, a majority of our effort will be working with them to get into compliance.
Okay, so this is triggered if they're out of compliance?
Yes, sir.
All right, I've got all my questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like Councilmember Adams.
I just had a question I forgot to ask. Just out of curiosity, what was the reasoning or the discussion behind the Board of Adjustment?
So it was a peculiar meeting. I think for the most part, a lot of the discussion during the meeting was related to, they felt like this was a standard not appropriate for the state of Texas. That this was a standard more so in keeping with the state of California.
Did they know that what was presented was with what TCEQ recommend, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality.
Well,
'Cause these, all of these are coming from that commission. They just didn't dictate it. They were all recommendations, so I'm just curious. This isn't a California thing, it's the state of Texas that. Just out of curiosity, I'm sorry. You don't have to answer them.
I'm sorry, you were expecting?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you again, Mr. Ravel. I think one of the questions I had, Councilmember Adams just asked it, and you pretty much alluded to the answer regarding the CBOA and their posture regarding this ordinance, which is, it's not surprising. We hear a lot about car washes on social media. I thank a lot of the citizens for stepping up and kind of bringing light to this. So I think part of this is in response to them. So thank you to the citizens for bringing this and making it a priority. I think another one of the things is, the city has to comply with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and the EPA's Clean Water Act, and the city maintains what's called a MS4 permit.
Yes, sir.
And car washes do check a lot of those boxes for that MS4 permit. When it comes to even existing older, like what you were talking about, in-bay car washes, even the ones with the wands, the fact that they have a grip trap to capture those detergents versus you're washing your car in the driveway and all those detergents and chemicals going directly into our drinking water supply. I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I would be curious, and I was hoping some of them would show up today, some of these local car wash owners and stakeholders to kind of get their input. But we have another week until we vote on this, so I'll do my part to kind of see if I can reach out to any of them and get their input on it. I know, like you said, a majority of these newer conveyor type systems already have the recycled water components there. It's just a fact of turning them on. So I'd like to, at least hear what they got to say and maybe take that input into consideration. But I do think it checks more pro boxes than it does cons. So we'll see how it moves forward in this next week. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Alvarez. And then also, Mr. Vell, I've heard from some of the members of the Construction Board of Appeals, and then also some folks who do or have owned car washes. And so it's a big spectrum here as far as the reason why they said no versus one of the owners of the several car washes at one point said that it was actually cost savings for the car wash owners. He was actually in support of the reclamation units, making sure they're operating at all times. I guess the main concern is what Councilmember Boyd brought up, which is the enforcement piece of this whole thing for the city as a whole. So unfortunately, retroactively, it'd be hard. But to your point, sir, when you mentioned new construction, new development, being able to make sure before they get like operating their permits and the certificate of occupancy, that's a way in which we can help control that. But enforcement would be very difficult overall, I would think, for us. Would you not agree with that?
I think we could run into some challenges, but we do think that we've got a system in place where we can work with them to drive that enforcement. And then in those cases where we can't, we do have that ability to exercise that penalty of a fine. Yes,
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Ravel at this time? No, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ravel.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to move on to our items for discussion at our workshop. Council, you've got 5 minutes, 2 times each. Madam Secretary? Please.
Yes, ma'am. DS 24019, receive quarterly financial report.
Angling, thank you.
Thank you, council members. This is the report for the first quarter of fiscal year 2024. We're going to go through the overview, some staffing indicators, some economic indicators. We're going to review the major operating funds, and I'm going to give an update on ARPA funding. When it comes to the personal information, you can see in this slide, we have 52 separations in the first quarter, but however, we did hire 70 employees. 2 of them were part-time, so we're really trying to catch up with our separations. Our new construction permits, we do have a increase on single-family permits from last fiscal year. It's 117 in 2024 compared to 43 in fiscal year 2023. However, the total permits overall went down, so you will see a drop in building permits collections. This is your sales tax information, just comparing the budget to actual, how we actually try to budget conservative, but the actuals come up kind of high. And that was the trend that we had in the past years. Yeah, this is your sales tax information. In comparison from last fiscal year, we are 1% up from last quarter, from last fiscal year. This is your breakdown of sales tax by economic category. Your retail is 55.1%. And now I'm going to go through the major funds results for the first fiscal quarter. For the revenues, we all know we collect property taxes at the beginning. It's the first quarter, seeing at 25% is good. But we always see a higher percentage in taxes just because we collect property taxes the first 3 months of the quarter, or the fiscal year, sorry. Total revenues is 49%. You see, we are very close, 25% in charges for services and fines and fees. We do have a 17 intergovernmental, and this is because we never know when we're going to get reimbursement. That doesn't mean we're actually down. We will know that at the end of the fiscal year, how much we have get reimbursement from those grants. Your expenditures in the general fund were 24%. Like I say, 25% is good, right? This is more likely because of the transfers out. It was a $5.1 million that we transfer out to the CIP governmental fund. We do that at the beginning of the year, so that's why the transfers out are 99%. You can see every department is less than 25%, most of the analysts. You change in your general fund is $29.9 million. This is the estimated beginning balance because we haven't finished our audit. You will see it soon. So the fund balance ending for this fiscal for this quarter is 63.6. Now when I go through the water and sewer fund, this is going to be a little bit faster, okay? Operating revenues 26%, expenses 16%. And our net position beginning, like I say, it's going to be estimated increased by 1.6 in the first quarter. Your solid waste fund, operating revenues looking good, 25%, expenses 20%. Our change in net positions are negative $300,000 that we spend more than revenues, and our net position ending is at 5.8. Your drainage utility fund, your operating revenues 24%, your expenses is 15%, and then your change in net position was $1,000, but you don't see it there. So it's the beginning balance is the same ending balance. And your aviation funds, you'll see a little bit decrease in the operating revenues. It's 23%, operating expenses are 19%. Your change in net position is still $80,000 in the positive, so the net position ending is 2.8. Your hotel occupancy tax fund, we only have collected 15% of hotel occupancy taxes. The actually hotel taxes for the regular hotels are down by $120,000. We haven't started collecting STRs, and that's why we only have 15%, but we will start collecting pretty soon. And we're also hoping that this amount for the hotel taxes will increase for the Eclipse. So we are hoping to see some more revenue in there in the next couple of months. Your total revenues increased by 18% of the budget. And then your total expenses, we spent 10% of the budget. And the net change in fund balance is 0.28. With your fund balance end is at 1.9 million. Your street maintenance fund, you see the collections at 24% for the street maintenance fee. Your total revenues are 25%. However, we have not spent much money. And then this is because they're waiting for spring, summer to work in the streets. Last fiscal year, we did spend 1.6 million, and they say because we really have really bad roads that we had to work on, so we were trying to make it work. But this year, they're really waiting for that good weather to work on it. We do have most of the money committed for fiscal year 2024. So your net change fund balance will be 2.4, and your ending will be 7.4 million. Now going to go to the American Rescue Plan funding update. I want to try to answer some questions that were asked in the beginning. But your hotel occupancy tax that was approved for that was all of these projects over here with that check mark are completed. And then we allocated 2.5 million. We spent 158,000, and then we're just waiting in the HVAC. That is what is holding up a little bit of money in there. And then we do have a contract that is working on right now. Then we have the general fund completed. The Boys and Girls Club, actually, we made another payment in this in February, at the beginning of February, and they're still waiting for the last payment. As you all know, the Boys and Girls Club building is already done, so we're just waiting for the last invoice. So you will see a $750 spent by next quarter. Your business assistance, there were questions about what businesses. I do have the list, but every business that we gave an agreement, it was brought to council. And if you guys want me to go to the list, I will go at the end of this presentation.
I'd like a copy when you get it, please.
So your total in this slide that was allocated 7.6 million, and we have spent 6.8, and that's from the general fund. For the governmental CIP fund, here is the Hill Country Community Action Meals and Wheels. We haven't spent it yet, but we are working in a contract, and we will have a contract by the end of this year, the calendar year, and those are the requirements for ARPA. We are tracking every single project in here. We have meetings every month with the departments, and we go through every status, and we are tracking that all this is going to be spent or contracted by the end of this calendar year. Same thing with the police training facility. Oops, it went back. Sorry, and then we have, for the governmental CIP funds, we allocated 17, we have spent 3.8 million. And this is because the biggest amount is in the EOC. You will start seeing those amounts close in this couple of months, hopefully. We already have a contract, as you all know. And for the fiscal year 2023 appropriations, we allocated 1.1, and we have spent 407. So this is the total amount that we have spent for the ARPA's fund. And that's all my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Tangling. We do have a question. Councilmember Adams?
What's the amount of funds that have not been obligated?
Well, whenever we talk about obligated, when we do the report with the ARPA report, everything that the council have allocated, we put it as obligated, right? But we have to have a contract by December 2024 for these funds to be kept.
Right.
And then we do have a couple of projects that we're working on to get those contracts done. And we will I can probably give you a list of projects for next time, that the amounts, the contracts that we're waiting on, we're working on, but most of these are contracted already.
My concern is that we get to a point where we have funds that may come back to us or have not been released, and we have to turn it over to the federal government. I don't want to give any money back to the federal government. That's what I meant by those things that don't have contracts. Do you have an estimated amount with that one?
We will have a contract, and then we also, like I say, we're tracking this project, and maybe by next quarter, if we have an idea that a project was cheaper than we anticipated, we will probably bring that back and request for reallocation to another project that is more expensive. We have other projects in here that it will cost more money than we actually are getting with ARPA funding, that we can allocate that into them. And we will do that before the deadline.
Okay. I just want to, I'm not saying do it a weekly check, but if we can get regular updates to make sure that, in case come back, the council got to make a decision, we're not doing it at the last minute. Mr. Cagle.
The vast majority will be spent, and as we get to the end, and if there's some that's not, we have a couple of recommendations. It's easy. If we're getting towards the end, there's a little money left, move it over to the fire station EOC.
Okay.
And we know it's going to get spent there, but we don't think we're at that point yet. We're still leaving all the money as it's allocated now.
Okay. And then for the business assistance, you said you had some.
I do have notes in here. Need to take my glasses off. So as the last status update, 5 of the 7 businesses were completed the project, and those businesses were Space Create, Twice as Funny, Kinetic Images, Let's Cook, Brace and Browse. And we're working with Rincon de Panama and Aroma Cigar Lounge. Those are the 2 that are left over, and we're working on with them.
Okay, in your view, they look like we'll be moving in a direction where they will meet their obligations?
Yes, sir, I will have a follow-up. We actually have a meeting tomorrow to talk about all the status with all the department heads.
Okay. I think thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adams. And then, Ms. Tingling, I guess, how difficult would it be for us, or how soon could we get an impact report or a variance report on the hot tax after the eclipse to see how well we did or what happened during that window? How soon after could we get a reasonable report?
So normally, how the hot taxes are reported are at the end of the month, right? So for the month of May, we won't see it until June at the end.
So would it be reasonable to request some information back in June then, Mr. Cagle? Can we do that? Do I need to make a motion for that, sir? Okay.
No, we'll bring it back to you, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be important information for us to have to see what type of influx a major event like this would have on us and for the future. Thank you. Seeing no other questions? Thank you, Ms. Tingling.
Thank you.
Yes. Madam Secretary.
DS 24020, discuss and consider the April 2nd, 2024 City Council Workshop.
Yes.
Mr. Cagle.
Excuse me. At the time we put this agenda out, it was looking like we were not going to have a quorum on April 2nd, but I think we may have a quorum now, and so if we can hear from, well, we've got 5 here now, who's going to be out on April 2nd? Yeah, I believe that's, that is the NTC. I think we had 3 people going to NTC and 1 person going to another event. But
So would there be a recommendation, sir, for a different,
yes, ma'am.
Right.
And so the recommendation would be, if it looks like we're not going to have a quorum, is to move the workshop to the 9th, April 9th, and then double up on the 16th with a council meeting and workshop.
okay, would you just
Okay.
mind stating that again for me, Mr. Cagle?
That if it appears we're not going to have a quorum on the 2nd, that we have a workshop on the 9th, and then on the 16th, we have a council meeting to deal with the 9th workshop items, and then have a workshop on the 16th, and council meeting on the 23rd.
Okay, that sounds good to me, but Councilmember Sagara?
In April, I'm looking at the calendar, and April has 5 Tuesdays, right?
Yes, sir, and that's another option. If you want to do it that way, we could do that as well. You could have the workshop on the 9th, council meeting 16th, workshop 23rd, council meeting 30th.
And that's taking the 9th off. So either way, we get a,
Yes, sir. Well, if you double up, it ends up being the 2nd and the 30th off. So it
I
just,
mean, I get the day off. You guys got to work.
Council, are you, oh, good, thank you, sir.
you.
Councilmember Adams?
I guess the biggest, well, staff, you're going to adjust accordingly, but I'm okay with the double, well, we don't normally meet on the 5th for the month, but we're not going to, it doesn't look like, I'm going to be here. I have had enough NTC to last the rest of my life, so I know I won't be going.
yes.
Not like that.
So I think if really just shifting by a week, and we still have the end of the month.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's your preference, however the council chooses.
So I motion
Which one works best for you?
Motion the direction to just, we cancel the 2nd and then shift the meetings 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th.
Do we have a second to that?
Just to clarify, we're moving it to the 31st instead of 30th? 30th. So we'll just say, yeah, that's good. All right, I'm good. I'll second it.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Okay, Mr. Cagle, do you have what you need for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Madam Secretary.
Councilmember requests for future agenda items. RQ 24002, discuss Texas Cultural District designation.
This is an agenda item that I brought forward requesting a conversation about the Texas Cultural District designation. Just another opportunity for us to animate our town center and our downtown area as we start to focus on our ultimate growth across our city. I think it's important that we start really focusing on other ways that we can attract businesses and expand tourism with the Mounted Warrior Museum and other features that we've got across our city that are currently underutilized. I think it's important that we start planning on ways in which we can partner with organizations that are already in place to help us capitalize on that. So my hope is that we can have a conversation about this and how it could promote economic development and expand our tax base. So I would hope that you all would support that conversation. Councilmember Adams.
Thank you. I move that this be placed on a future agenda.
Councilman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, we've got RQ 24-002 move to the agenda items. Madam Secretary?
RQ 24003, discuss music-friendly Texas designation.
Again, this item also is in conjunction with this as we look at our town center, meaning our I-14 corridor across the city of Killeen, as we're starting to expand out. Again, another economic driver that is very important to just look at how we can expand our tourism and opportunity base. These two kind of go hand in hand, so I would hope that you would also support this as far as our conversation is concerned.
And if I can just add, since we had the discussion earlier about Rancier, and this kind of the thing that I think falls in line, whether it's a cultural district, something that can make that Thoroughway, thriving and excitement and bring that foot traffic to our other businesses. So I think that's a great idea. I appreciate that.
And thank you. And the beautiful thing is that it doesn't, there's a lot of people that say, why focus on downtown? But it's not just the downtown area. This will also cover the entire city of Killeen as a whole. There's a lot of opportunities for us for the future for that. Thank you. Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, Councilmember Boyd.
Sure, thank you. And I appreciate you bringing these proactive initiatives for downtown for consideration. We are a council of vision, so I think that's outstanding. So I make a motion to bring RQ-T4-003 back for future discussion.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Adams?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All right. Thank you for your support, gentlemen. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Meeting adjourned.